Welcome back to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Emily, and today's episode is one of the most vulnerable, most powerful conversations we've ever had. Because it's not just about grammar, or pronunciation, or vocabulary. Today, it's about the words you've been carrying for years, the ones that never felt safe to say out loud, until now.
And I'm Nick. Whether you're just starting your English journey or you've been learning for years, you probably already know that English isn't just a language you learn, it's a language you live. And sometimes, it gives you the distance, or the courage, or the new voice you didn't know you needed, to finally speak the truth that's been buried deep inside.
There are stories that we never tell, stories of heartbreak, of trauma, of childhood pain, of identity struggles, of feeling invisible, or misunderstood, or not enough. And in our first language, these stories can feel too heavy. Too raw. Too close to home. But for many of us, English becomes the place where we can finally find the words. Where we can make sense of what happened. Where we can give shape to what we've been feeling but never said.
Maybe your native language is tied up with fear. With judgment. With a family who never listened. Or a culture that never allowed you to be fully seen. And maybe, just maybe, speaking in English gave you just enough space to breathe. Just enough safety to say, this is what I went through. This is who I really am. This is what hurt me. This is what saved me.
And if you've ever written a journal entry in English, typed a message you could never say in your mother tongue, or whispered a truth to yourself in the quiet of a second language, then you know exactly what we're talking about. You felt how English, despite being foreign, can somehow feel like home. Like freedom. Like release.
It's not about being fluent. It's not about being perfect. It's about finding a voice you trust, even if that voice stumbles. Even if it's uncertain. Because when you tell your story, even in broken sentences, even with mispronounced words, you are building something whole again. You are reclaiming your narrative. You are saying, I exist. I matter. And my pain, my journey, my truth, deserves to be heard.
And that's what today's episode is really about. Not English as a school subject, but English as a mirror. As a tool for healing. As a space to unfreeze the stories you've kept inside for too long. Because sometimes the words we've never said in our first language become possible in our second.
So if there's something inside you that still feels too heavy, too messy, too complicated to talk about, this episode is for you. If there's a truth you've only whispered in English, this episode is for you. If you've ever thought, I can't say this in my language, but maybe I can say it here, then you are exactly where you need to be.
And sometimes, that whisper becomes a sentence. That sentence becomes a paragraph. And suddenly, you find yourself writing an entire page in English that you never thought you had the strength to write. Maybe it's in a private journal. Maybe it's in a late-night message to a friend. Or maybe it's something you record, just for yourself, hearing your voice say things it's never said before. That process, as quiet and invisible as it might seem, is incredibly powerful.
You don't need to share your story with the world to prove its value. Even if no one ever reads it, even if no one ever hears it but you, the act of putting it into words is an act of self-respect. Of reclaiming your story from silence. When you choose to write or speak in English, you're not just learning a language, you're building a bridge to the parts of you that were waiting to be heard.
And here's something important to remember. Telling your story doesn't mean you need to explain everything perfectly. You don't need the right idioms or the best grammar. You don't need fancy words. You just need your words. Your honesty. Your emotion. Sometimes, the most powerful stories are told in the simplest sentences. I was scared. I didn't know who I was. I felt lost. I tried anyway. I'm still trying.
And those simple sentences are brave. They are beautiful. Because they come from the most real parts of you. Parts that maybe didn't have the chance to speak before. When you tell your truth in English, even if your voice shakes, even if your accent is strong, even if you pause a lot, you're doing something incredibly human. You're healing. You're connecting. You're becoming visible.
So if you're someone who's been afraid to write or speak because you think your English isn't good enough, please hear this. Your story is good enough. You are good enough. Every mistake is part of the journey. Every sentence is progress. Every word is a step closer to the version of you that is no longer silent. And that version is worth everything.
Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when you cry while writing. Even when the words come slowly or the memories feel too close, keep going. Because English doesn't have to be a place of pressure. It can be a place of release. A language where you tell the truth you've been holding, not for grammar points, but for your own peace.
And you know, Nick, sometimes it's not just about telling one big story all at once. It can be small moments too, like sharing a feeling, describing a place that reminds you of something important, or even writing down a hope for the future. Those little pieces add up, like building blocks. Slowly, you create a mosaic of your experience, your emotions, your growth. And English becomes the tool that helps you see that picture more clearly.
Exactly. It's like learning to paint with new colors. At first, it might feel awkward or messy, but with each stroke, you gain confidence. You start to enjoy the process, not just the result. And that's where healing really happens, in the practice, in the trying, in the showing up again and again, even when it's hard.
Yeah, and don't forget, you're not alone in this. So many people are using English not just as a language, but as a way to explore themselves, to express feelings they've never been able to say before. That shared experience is powerful. It means there's a community of learners, healers, storytellers, all working through their own challenges and cheering each other on.
I love that, a community of healers. Because language learning can sometimes feel so isolating, right? But it doesn't have to be. Finding your voice in English means finding your place among others who understand, who support you, who respect your courage.
And when you feel stuck or frustrated, remember why you started telling your story in the first place. It's not just about words or fluency. It's about you, your journey, your healing, your truth. Every sentence you write or speak is a step towards that freedom.
So, if you've been holding back, unsure if your English is ready, maybe the best advice is just to start. Start small. Start messy. Start where you are. Because your story deserves to be told, and your voice deserves to be heard, exactly as it is.
And when you do, you'll be surprised how much strength and peace that brings. It's not just about learning English. It's about rewriting your story, in your own words, at your own pace.
And speaking your story out loud, or writing it down in English, can sometimes help you understand your feelings better too. It's like the language gives you a new lens to look at old experiences, maybe even soften some of the pain tied to them.
Totally. Sometimes words in your native language carry so much weight, or history, that it's hard to unpack them. But in English, it can feel like you're discovering those feelings fresh, with a little more distance. That space can be really healing.
Plus, sharing your story, even imperfectly, builds connection. When others hear you, relate to you, or see your courage, it breaks down isolation. You realize you're part of a bigger human story, not stuck alone in your struggles.
And that's powerful, because healing isn't a straight line. It's messy, slow, and sometimes feels like you're taking 2 steps back. But using English as a way to express yourself gives you new ways to move forward, even on those tough days.
I think that's why so many people say learning a language changes them. It's not just about grammar or vocabulary. It's about finding new ways to understand themselves and the world around them. It's a kind of personal transformation.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that language isn't just a skill, it's a bridge. A bridge to new relationships, new parts of yourself, and sometimes, a bridge back to hope. That's why sharing your story in English is so much more than just practice. It's a step toward healing and growth.
So, even if it feels scary or imperfect, keep telling your story. Keep exploring those feelings through English. Because every word you say or write is part of a journey toward a stronger, freer you.
And you know, Nick, sometimes the simple act of putting feelings into words, especially in a new language, can bring clarity we didn't expect. It forces us to slow down, to really think about what we're experiencing inside.
Yeah, it's like the language becomes a kind of mirror. It reflects not only our thoughts but our emotions back to us in a way that makes them easier to face. That's a huge step in healing.
And sometimes, when we tell our stories in English, we discover parts of ourselves we hadn't noticed before. Maybe a strength, a hope, or even forgiveness. It's surprising how language can unlock those hidden corners.
It's also a way to reclaim your narrative. When pain or shame made you silence your story, learning to tell it in English can be like taking that power back, showing yourself that you're more than your struggles.
Exactly. And when others listen, even if they don't fully understand every word, they hear your courage. That alone can be deeply validating and comforting.
And this is why language learning isn't just about being fluent or perfect. It's about connection, healing, and expressing your true self, even if it's messy or raw.
So keep speaking, keep writing, keep sharing your story in English. Because every time you do, you're healing, growing, and inspiring, whether you realize it or not.
That's such a beautiful way to put it, Emily. Learning English isn't just about mastering words or grammar, it's about finding your voice, healing old wounds, and connecting with others on a deeper level.
Absolutely. So, wherever you are in your English journey, remember that your story matters. Keep sharing it, keep growing, and most importantly, be kind to yourself along the way.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the British Accent Podcast. We hope today's conversation gave you a little extra courage to keep using English as a tool for healing and self-discovery.
We'll catch you next time with more stories, tips, and encouragement to support your language learning and personal growth. Take care and keep shining.
Bye for now.